5 things I did as a feminist entering adulthood as now a non-feminist. 1, I constantly had a problem with authority in men in general. From a young age, I was constantly told that authority was given by men, whether that be in the form of a father, a god, a authority figure like the police. It was usually given by men, and I could see that. And instead of learning how to work within the constraints of that society and use it to my advantage in a healthy and good way, I instead wanted to burn the entire system down. I truly believe in this world, women are the antithesis of men, in that if a mass amount of men believe one thing or come to the conclusion about one thing, the girls and how they're raised are going to automatically become women that oppose or view that as wrong and that they could do it better. And that's obviously in large part due to our ego. And truly, the society that we have is led and styled and molded by so many women, but it is set up in a way that makes you just see the men as the oppressor. And it always goes back to blaming the men for damaging the woman in some way to make her act that way.
You're right. Instead of learning how to work with the system men built, feminism brainwashed women into thinking burning it down was empowerment. It trained them to see men only as oppressors, while quietly benefiting from the order, safety, and comfort men provide. Feminism feeds the female ego by making rebellion look like strength, but all it creates is resentment and chaos. In the end, women didn't beat the system, they just made themselves more miserable inside it.
Which brings me to number 2. As a woman, I was told all the time that I was the prize, and that no matter what I did, no matter how toxic it was, that I was the treasure that needed to be won, and it didn't matter what I did. This led me to make a lot of toxic decisions, and oftentimes my own mother would try to frame it in a way that even the most toxic behavior was only done because a man made me behave that way.
This is what happens when women are raised on delusion instead of discipline. They're told they're flawless queens, then wonder why their relationships collapse. Feminism handed them a crown without earning it, so accountability became optional, and blame always landed on men. That kind of conditioning doesn't create strong women. It creates entitled victims who mistake toxicity for empowerment. And now men are waking up, refusing to play along, and walking away from the game entirely.
I didn't want anybody to have any expectations of me, but I had a ton of expectations of everybody else. I wanted everybody to behave a certain way. I wanted everybody to follow a certain script that I had in my head. I wanted people to think the way I did, and I didn't understand why they couldn't, because obviously I could see things the right way. And honestly, I was defensive, I was very responsive, and I was very hate-filled and angry, but I thought everybody else were the hate-filled and angry ones. I thought I personally could do whatever I wanted, but I resented anybody else for doing what they wanted and thinking what they wanted to think, and I'm like, why? Why are you doing that? And I didn't understand why they couldn't just be the way I wanted them to be.
Demand freedom for yourself while shackling everyone else with your expectations. It's entitlement dressed up as empowerment, blaming others for not living by your script while excusing your own chaos. That double standard is why so many men check out. They're tired of women who preach equality but practice hypocrisy.
4, I stayed with men I didn't even really like to specifically, just so I could avoid going home and just so I could avoid sleeping around and being a hoe, but I could still pretend to be a traditional little good girl. It allowed me to constantly be working on myself while getting help with my bills and while avoiding going home and having the safety net of my parents in any way. This caused a ton of avoidable conflict, and I would say I didn't know what I was doing, but I honestly think the constant sadness and anxiety was the objective truth, striving to get out and show me that what I was doing was wrong, and I inherently knew it was wrong, but I continued to do it anyways to benefit myself. And I was just using the excuse that I was young and misguided and angry at the world to then blame others to do shitty things.
using men for comfort, bills, and a fake image while calling it working on myself. It's not confusion. It's calculated self-interest wrapped in excuses about youth and emotions. Men get painted as villains, but in reality, they were just resources to be drained while she played traditional on the surface. Feminism glorified that selfishness as empowerment, but deep down she knew it was wrong.
I got married as an atheist at 19 and immediately agreed to indiscretions the night of our marriage, and then used that as a way to open up the marriage and manipulate the situation to benefit myself yet again in life. And I was checked out. My dad asked if I could see myself spending forever with this dude, and I said for now, and I still married him anyway. And I thought I could get revenge on my ex-high school boyfriend. I thought I could still have a hoe mindset while playing traditional housewife, whatever. I was still working. I still made my own money and paid for my own shit, but it was still helpful. I still had help with my bills that he was obviously helping me with, and it made me look good. As soon as I did manipulate the situation enough to where he did open up the marriage, I immediately left him for being weak. And like, he was weak in a lot of ways and did a lot of shitty things too, but I saw that very early on, and I used it to benefit myself and manipulate the situation and use his shittiness and toxic behavior as a way to justify my own shitty toxic behavior. Toxic ass shit. And I was trying to fool myself into believing that just because he said something was okay, it was okay, even though I inherently knew that what I was doing was not okay. But because he said it was okay, I thought it was okay. Oh, and P.S., I did not take anything in that divorce, not one single penny. Anything that was bought within the year that we stayed married, I gave back to him. It took me realizing that I was the problem, and I couldn't blame a man for the things that I was doing. I have to be accountable for the power that I do have. And a lot of it is very underhanded power that prey on weak men and use them to my advantage, which inherently is not good for society. That breeds more toxic men and can be very disastrous in a lot of ways. All this to say, I was a fool in so many ways. I did a lot of shitty things, and it took me really self-evaluating to realize the mistakes that I was making so I didn't make them again. And it took a man to really set me into my place when I did get into a relationship with him and call me out on the bad toxic behavior when it happened. And now I am in a very successful, happy, healthy relationship that I couldn't ever dream of getting better, but somehow it still does every day. So, yeah.
She admits she manipulated a weak man, exploited his flaws to justify her own, and only changed when a stronger man finally held her accountable. That's the brutal truth. Weak men enable toxic women, while strong men expose them and force growth. The damage, though, is already done. Broken marriages, wasted years, and men who learn the hard way that equality often means being used. Feminism didn't empower her, masculine structure did. Maybe there is hope for our sons. Anyway, guys, you can now share your raw, unfiltered experiences about why you went MGTOW. Send them to our email. I'll read them out loud, exposing the reality and waking men up. I've pinned the email in the comments. That's all for today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Also, click on the notification bell to know when I drop a new video. Bye.